Let's do this.
Okay.
Okay, hi.
Good morning.
I'm coming as fast as I can. Welcome to the Sun Dragon Sideshow.
The Dear Becky and Lizzy, but we have no questions edition.
So we get to talk about whatever we want. Ha 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 ha. You're all our captive. I mean, you could turn off the video, whatever, but you're captive. And I don't know, we kind of had quasi things to talk about.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about some stuff, but we can do another excuse me. Probably need some water. We could do another just kind of check in on things we're working on, because I think it'd be fun to talk about the thing you're working on at some point. You brought in yarn you've plied.
Yeah, I plied it last night.
I have yarn for projects for the crochet along I'm thinking about, and I started socks, and oh my gosh, there's so many things. Let me slow down. Lizzie said to calm me down. I was having a little panicky moment. I'm good. Hi, I'm Rebecca. I'm the owner of Sun Dragon Art and Fiber in actually probably going to be sunny and hot today, Brevard, North Carolina.
I'm Liz. I'm the minion there.
I feel like that's just weird having, you know, like the weather we had yesterday. Yeah, I did move that totally out.
Yeah, yesterday it was freckles, not freckles.
It was kind of rain.
Freckles done.
And not cold, but kind of icky. Like you wanted long sleeves or
it
like
was
something over your shoulders.
Something over my shoulders. It was damp, and it didn't make it to 70 until about 2 or 3 o'clock.
And
like,
what is it going to be, like 79, 80 today?
Yeah.
So yeah, today's going to be interesting. And again, so if I'm like, what do we... No show notes. We'll figure out what we're talking about. But if you ever want to give us something to discuss on a Thursday, because that's the day we usually answer questions, it is emailing them at this point. You can write us a letter, too. We save all the letters that come into us, or cards, or those kind of things. Letters you would send to 35 South Broad Street, Brevard, North Carolina, 28712. And emails go to...
Liz at sundragonartandfiber.com.
You always say it. She's got her way of saying that. That's cool. Anyway, so when we don't have questions, we get to do what we want, which sometimes takes some thinking. But I'm intrigued. So what do you want to talk about of your stuff first? Because I'm intrigued by both.
Let me finish my triple.
Triple? Like
it's a triple or whatever. It's yarn over 4 times.
4 times. Nice. Yeah. She's crocheting. It's fun.
Let me...
Should I talk about something else?
No,
okay.
I'm good. I had to. So, I am crocheting a hornet's nest. Partly because Rebecca has hornet issues, and partly because I found the pattern several weeks ago and was like, "Ooh, I could crochet that up."
Yeah.
And
it actually, the picture she showed me of what it should look like when it's done is really cool.
The most awesome thing about it is she has layers, and I'm working on the third layer. So it'll look like
one of those
a paper nest.
Paper nests, yeah.
And
that's really cool.
I'm finally back down to 60 stitches around, but like the first layers are at 80. It's okay. All like there's a few single crochets. I don't really like single crochets, but like
necessary evil.
I've probably done less than 20 of them in this. Most of it is all double crochet, and then to get the little loopy-loopies, you know, the waves in it, it's like doubles and singles and half doubles and triples and double triples and triple triples.
It's kind of like how I imagine if someone was going to attempt to make the papillon a crochet pattern, instead of doing the short rows of knitting back and forth to get the bubble, you do, you know, like you build from short stitches up to tall and then back down.
And I might have to try that now that I've played with this.
That was always, like, when you tried just following the pattern but using single crochets, that was always my thought, was, like, wherever that's supposed to be, wherever it says red square, orange square, is to just do something like that with crochet. Anyway.
So, and then once you get a flap done, you go back up underneath the flap, and you start building more rows, and then you do another rows. It's like 90% back loop only. except for where you go back and pick up the back loop to build down, and then
so again you get kind of the layered like
you get the
look.
layered look, and
That's cool.
yeah, it's the pattern's on Etsy.
It's on
and
Etsy.
I
Okay.
will send you the pattern link.
Weren't you saying it was one of the less expensive options?
It was one of the less expensive, but actually the prettiest. Like, it actually looks like a hornet nest instead of...
Just like a weird football.
Yeah, instead of a bubbly little mess.
Might actually fool the hornets.
Yeah.
Because we don't know if it's conventional wisdom, old wives' tale, actually true. The whole thing, if you hang something that looks like a hornet's nest outside of your house, no hornets will build nests. Or wasps will build nests around your house. On that front, for my house, I have not heard or seen... I've maybe heard faraway noises or things I can't decipher as being a hornet in my house. I haven't seen anything in my house. 2 nights ago was very, I don't think I slept well because I was worried. I kept hearing noises. And last night was very quiet.
Good.
So, I still didn't sleep well for other reasons.
Yeah.
But I woke up in the middle of the night for other reasons. Usually
I know.
it's related to my cat. I sent her reels while I was up trying to get back to sleep.
I woke up to go to the bathroom, and of course, getting back in
too.
bed, I was like...
We all scroll on our
Rebecca
phones.
was up 5 minutes ago. Oh, she sent me reels. And so
what else am I going to
I
do?
watched all the reels. I sent her my happy faces,
I got
laughing
those
faces.
when I woke up this morning.
And
yeah.
I went back to bed. And so
I was up at like 2, and that's a story I'm not sharing on this format. So, my sleep tracker gave me like 50% for last night. But I wasn't woken up by the fear of hornets in my room. That's the good news. So I don't know. So I don't know if like the one I killed and the one that got trapped in my light has dissuaded all the others, or if I need to make a hornet's nest too. So we'll see.
the other
Yes.
thing, last night I plied, this is the yarn that I spun over the weekend, and I plied it last night.
Not available for sale.
Not available for sale.
Something that Liz made, but really cool.
It was a 8-ounce braid that I bought offline, and anyway.
Oh, man, I'm just...
Yeah. It's pretty. So it's all got to be washed and whacked.
And you're
set
wearing meese on your dress.
meese?
Moose.
Moose. Yeah.
My plural for moose. Meese.
Meese.
That's really cool.
Yep.
So we actually had a comment on, I want to say yesterday's, one of the videos from this week, from someone who just started watching more regularly and was like, what's the deal with your dresses? And I know we have explained this or talked about this in a previous episode, but we could, because we don't have any questions today, take a couple minutes.
I can answer that. So
What's up with the dresses?
dresses?
This is Liz.
This is me. For the last 27 years, I have been wearing dresses. I'm 2 different sizes, so like buying clothes.
What do you mean by 2 different sizes?
From here up, I'm a size large, and from here down, I'm like a 2X.
And I feel like there's lots of people who have this problem, but they don't solve it the same way that you did.
No, I always tell everybody I'm a fat girl with no boobs. Like, it's a thing. So, and when I was pregnant with my first, I sewed my own maternity, like, did dresses, and there were times that I would, in the summer, wear shorts or whatever, but, I mostly like my dresses, and for the last 13, 14 years, I haven't switched out to shorts, but maybe a day or 2 a year. Like, I'm always in my dresses. They're more comfortable. In the summer, I wear just like one dress and my pair of pants, and I feel cooler in those than I do in shorts and a t-shirt. So, like, t-shirts just wig me out, and most of my pants don't have pockets. So, like, when I wear shorts and a t-shirt to work for my casual work day, I feel just all kinds of naked. It's, yeah.
And I pretty much live in a t-shirt and pants at this point.
Yeah.
So, with whatever knitted accessories over the top. So, I don't even think I own shorts that fit for my vacation. You know, it's just, but I feel like yours is much more decorative.
And like I've been curating this collection for like 27 years. So when people come in and they're like, "Oh, I would love to dress outside the box," and I'm like, "You don't have to be me in 10 minutes." Like it
like this is taking a long time. This is
taken 20. Like the dreads are 2 years old, so like it's not been I woke up one day and went, "Oh, I should."
I feel like the day I met you, you were in one of your fancier. You're probably in a boob dress. You were in one of your fancier dresses, and you know, just makes an impression. So
I just like. Everybody kind of is like, "Oh, yeah, okay, that's Liz." Not, and you know, but it's what I can wear nerd dresses. I can wear, you know, like this was one of my
it's one of your crawl dresses.
Yeah, and so I don't know how many dresses I have. I have a very extensive wardrobe or floor closet, and yeah.
There you go. I was gonna comment on this person's comment and say somewhere back in our Dear Becky and Lizzy's, we've probably addressed this, but I don't know when. We have so many episodes now.
I get a lot of questions about how do you make your dresses. Is there a pattern for your dresses? But I'm not sure if anybody's asked why.
I can't remember. It might have been like a when or why. But I don't know. Anyway.
So.
This is Liz all the time.
Yeah. So. And I don't sew for other people. Like everybody's like, "Ooh, I would love a Liz dress." And
it's like I mean, I think knitters and crocheters can relate to this, but then don't realize they're doing it on another topic. I was watching a reel from Gotham Knits, and it was like the types of people who come across you while you're knitting in public. And there's like the silent starers, and there's this and that. But then there's also the, "Oh, you should sell that. Like, you should make those and sell that. Like, you get you should make those for other people. You should sell those." Like, anything crafty. Like, people do that to it. They're like, they see you making something, and they're like, turn it into a business. Or make money off of it. And they don't realize how hard that is.
Well, and there are personality types that are like, "Sure, I would love to turn my hobby into a business."
I find most people, though, that craft, like, that's not an easy leap to make.
If it's something you really, really like doing and enjoy doing, turning it into a business kind of makes it...
Can kill that.
Yes.
Can take all the joy out of that. Like, I've done that with other hobbies I've had.
I used to make sweater coats for...
that's right.
For a while, and it took 2 full days of serging, just running everything through my serger. And once I started working more and more here, the place that I had my sweater coats was like, "Hey, do you have another one ready?" And I'm like, I don't want to sit and do that for the whole weekend. Like, I just don't. And
then you can't really charge a price that's going to get your whole weekend back.
Yeah.
You know, like that's, so people were like, "Oh, those things you're knitting, you should sell them." It's like, yeah, it's not going to make a living.
Yeah. Well, and most, like, with yarn stuff, it's the same with fabric stuff. It's like, "Oh, I'd pay like $50 for that dress." And I'm like, "Oh, for $50 you could get half the dress." Like, and they're like,
just the materials,
just the,
probably, not even the labor.
And they're like,
right?
"Wait, what?" And I'm like, I put like 6 yards into a dress now, and it's quilting cotton. And it's not Walmart or Joann's quilting cotton.
So what does that mean to someone who has no idea what that means? Does that mean, is quilting cotton more expensive?
Like, going to a quilt shop, I pay anywhere from $11 to $15 a yard for fabric.
Because I hear that and I'm like, it's quilting fabric. Okay. But yeah, having a sense of what that means.
So like Walmart's raised their prices for their fabric up to like $5 or $6, probably even more dollars now per yard. I'm paying at least twice that much
for a higher quality stuff that's going to last longer, right?
It's the difference between Walmart yarn and some of our yarns that, you know.
It's like going from an acrylic yarn to like a washable wool or something else like that. And then, you know, or 100% wool. It's going to be a price difference.
I have some Liberty of London fabric dresses, and it's like going from Walmart yarn to the
to like
silk
laces
and hand dyed.
Yeah,
it's
like our tencel and stuff.
Yeah, it's like
Anyway, so there's that. Because I mean, people who come in hoping they can buy our samples, thinking, or like, do you have this in blue? Like, we can easily make extras. Some shops do have knitting machines, and you still get that same look, and there's still a lot of work that goes into it, but you can get them done faster. And then you might be able to sell your samples for a decent price. Whereas when we're hand knitting things, I mean, a lot of y'all know, I'm a fast knitter. And yet it still takes me hours to even, like, the hat. I left the hat over there. But it still takes me hours to make a hat. And it's just...
I was telling Carol that I read some of the reviews on this pattern because I left my review. And it's a fantastically written pattern and everything. And one lady was like, oh, I knocked that out in, like, 3 hours. And this is the third day I'm working on it. And it's about halfway done.
And hers could also be more well-versed with the pattern. And, like,
and Carol goes... She might not be jumping up every 5 minutes to help people.
It's hard for us. Like, I was trying to mark how long it took me to make a hat. I was trying to keep, like, I went home Saturday night last week, and I tried to, when I got up Sunday morning, just work on the hat. I did have to, like, stop for lunch and stop for other things, just so I could try to catalog how long it takes me to make something. Because, we don't just sit and knit. If you do that, or crochet, sometimes that can really hurt your hands or hurt other parts of your body if you don't get up and move. And then we have other things happening in life. And so it's really hard to quantify how long did I spend making this. And so how much should I charge for it if I'm going to try to sell it? And for the most part, we don't sell things here in the shop. Partially because it would just be confusing if some things were for sale and some things weren't. And right now, not everything's tagged, so it's kind of that situation. Like, if someone wanted to sell their handmade things in our shop, that gets, like, the lines get blurred for people who don't understand the difference between a sample and consignment. And so we encourage them to go sell them somewhere else, like local
there's
color
lots of
street.
Consignment stores in the area that,
But when people come in here expecting them, like, the made things to be for sale, it depends on the person how much of a discussion we get into. But anyway, so other things I can chat about briefly. I this week wanted to start picking out, like, I don't have it over here, but I showed y'all, I think on Tuesday, the Scrappy Granny tee that I've started. The summer make-along is a crochet one. It's based around granny squares. It doesn't start until July. I know a lot of people are like, it's summer, let's do it. But, like, I'm going on vacation in a week, which is coming up really fast, actually. Like, a week from today is the last filming we're going to have for about a week or so. And so June's just a weird month, and we're not starting anything in June. Happy June, by the way. It's June 1st today. But one of the patterns that's on my short list for the Granny Square make-along, like, I don't have just one thing we're making, which for some people is really frustrating and for other people is liberating. I have about 5 or 6 patterns at least that I have at least come up. I'm trying that this year, having, like, a short list where you can pick a different thing. If your bags aren't your thing, you could pick a blanket. If blankets aren't, you could pick a top, The smallest item, I think, on my short list it's called the Battenberg bag. Not to be confused with the Battenberg blanket. They're by different pattern writers, and I want to say Battenberg is like, I was watching Father Brown, binge watching the other day, and it's a dessert. Or the thing I was seeing. I know Battenberg is a lot of things. Battenberg is probably a place.
It's also a form of lace. Like, there's Battenberg lace.
I only knew about a Battenberg, like, there was a cake in this episode, and they were making fun of it because it wasn't all different colors, which I was like, that might relate to the Battenberg patterns that I'm seeing, which were different color granny squares, or, The lace I would have to learn about. I do not know about that yet. So the Battenberg bag has granny squares kind of turned on their edge, so they're more like diamonds than squares. Mm-hmm. And it's done with worsted weight. It's done with number 4 yarn, middle thickness. And it was done with a cotton, and so I was looking at our cottons, and I'm like, well, we've got the nifty cotton with some kind of bland colors. I mean, it's nice, but it's, and it's a nice sturdy cotton, though, and I was like, I could always go with the Ultra Pima because it's a little thinner, but we've got more color options. But we already have one bag in the shop made with Ultra Pima. It's double-stranded, so it's hefty. I am knitting with Ultra Pima. And so Liz suggested the Coastline, just for like a cotton on the whole, especially a twist cotton, and the Coastline's a little different. A twist cotton, a solidly constructed cotton, has good structure to it, can get wet and nasty and dry out. It's more functional sometimes than wool for a bag. Not necessarily for a garment, but for a bag. And so she recommended the Coastline, and we played around with colors. The colors of the Battenberg bag sample that you see when you look on Ravelry. It's like a blue and like a coral. I'm trying to remember.
A dark blue, a coral, and like a peach.
Yeah, it was like
or a salmon.
But that might be what I'm calling a coral. So I don't know what the third color was. It might have been a yellow or something, and a white. And so I'm sticking with a neutral for what's going to combine all of the squares together and have the handle. And I would look at what it is, the picture is, but it's on my phone, and my phone is filming right now. I want to say it's there was an orange or a yellow, so we've got the blue and the orange or yellow. The bright coral I've replaced with a green, because this is like my favorite color of the current palette we have in stock of the Coastline. So this is my color combo for my Battenberg bag sample, and I haven't started it yet. This is not like a tight twist construction. This is more like a shell with a good solid core construction, but it's a bunch of different plant fibers, so we're intrigued to see how it's going to work. And it's a worsted weight, so it's cotton, viscose, nylon, and linen. And the quantity of how much is in that order. There's the most cotton, and then viscose, and then nylon, and then linen. And the viscose may or may not be bamboo, but it probably is something plant-ish, plant fiber-ish. Sometimes plant fibers have more strength to them too than wool, but not elasticity. So there's different fibers do different things. I'm still learning about it. I know what people say, but in actual experience, there's so much that can be determined by the construction of the yarn too, not just the fiber. Because if someone says, "Well, cotton does this," depends on how the cotton has been constructed into yarn. If it's always going to follow the same rules, is my experience.
Well, and now we have so many different blends, and like with the chainette cottons, it behaves completely different than spun.
The spun and twisted cotton. Yeah, it's true. So we're going to play around with that and see if this one works and how it looks, and we'll let you know about that. I keep starting new projects, so like none of them are ever getting done. But anyway, the other thing I can mention is I finally last night I had enough votes that also coincided with where I was already heading. I brought number 6 home with me from the footprints for people who watched yesterday's episode. And we did have a bunch of people who commented and said the bright one, they said 6. So we had at least one person who liked number 3. Might have been the other one I was looking at. They're all beautiful. If you would like to make something with one of the other colors, most people were already heading in the same direction as me with the bright. I think a lot of these colors are going to sell themselves. That's always the debate as a yarn shop owner. Do you want to do the one that's going to encourage people to get it because it's popular? Do you want to make it out of the one that people are not necessarily going to pick because they might pick it if they see a sample of it? Like, who knows? Anyway, so I started a sock, and I started it, I'm doing the most basic pattern. It's not the cover pattern from Ready Set Socks. It's just ribbing and basic knitting because this is a really busy yarn anyway. But I can show you how it's knitting up. The book, so I only had a couple of sets of needles that are the right size. So that's 6 so far knit up. Isn't that pretty? The book recommends US 1.5, which is a 2.5 millimeter, which is the bottom end of the smaller end of what this yarn recommends. And I had one set of needles free that were that size. That's not what these are on right now. I'm going to explain why. I don't think I meant to chuck in the needles to bring in to show why I didn't, because here's 1.5s in the Prims, 6-inch, that I've got the other sock I'm making on. And I had a set of ones at home, but they were the 8-inch. Like, Prims, when they were first manufactured, were only an 8-inch lengths, which, when you're dealing with chunkier needles and big stitch counts, that's awesome. When you break it up to have it on 4 double points, that's 16 stitches per needle. And with the 8-inch ones, like, getting started on it, it was really fiddly and in my face. And that's why some people prefer to do socks on magic loop or 2 circulars. I've been oddly attracted to double points lately, though. It's really weird. I was saying on my morning meditation post, I'm like, I wouldn't have pegged myself for a traditionalist. And yet I'm like, cuff down, double point needles. Like, that's apparently my happy place right now. But it wasn't with the 8-inch needles. Like, I can navigate the longer needles and be fine with them. But I wasn't really enjoying them last night, and I knew to try to film for this morning for y'all over on Instagram, it would just look super awkward, and they'd keep going into the camera space, and so even though I was hoping to reserve these zeros to test out some new cotton sock yarn that we have not brought into the shop yet, I have cast on. This took precedence. So I'm knitting on zeros. They are my happy place for socks. It's 2 millimeters. You don't have to do 2 millimeter. But even a 0.5 millimeter, when they're this teeny tiny, can make a difference in how socks feel on your feet. I have discovered. So you can go as big as US 2s, 2.5s for socks. I wouldn't necessarily personally with sock yarn go bigger than that. But like, my caveat is always that everybody's stitch count is different. Everyone's gauge, everyone's tight or loose is different. And so just because I like zeros doesn't mean it's going to work for somebody else. And I've actually grown kind of fond of these carbon needles, Carbons by Knitter's Pride. We have some in the shop. I'm not even sure if we have any more of the zeros left, because honestly, they're more expensive. They're almost in the Addy range for prices. And so we weren't selling a lot of them, even though they're really nice. We weren't selling a lot of them, so there wasn't necessarily a need to bring them back in. But now I'm using them a lot, and so I don't know if people are going to start asking for them.
I think you inquired with Prim about their carbon.
They were going to have a carbon option, but that's different than the carbons that I'm using right now. And they weren't widely available. They were like, if you want, we can look into them. And I'm like, well, I mean, I think people like the Prims partially because of the shape, but also because they're not super expensive. And that's the polymer ones, the white ones, like the ones I'm doing these other socks with. Oh, that's the finished sock. I'm like, whoops! Those are not super expensive. I think the carbons are going to be expensive. So I never really pursued that.
When I found a set, I don't think they were as expensive as
these carbons. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I know that when I did some research into carbon needles in general, and Prim may have solved this problem. The carbon part of it is the center, not the tips. So there is a little bit of a hitch where the tips meet the carbon, but it's not too bad. The carbon means it's not going to slip as much as total metal needles like our Chow Goos. Although I find, depending on how you're using them, the Chow Goos I don't find slip either. But some people, if you have a looser gauge, they might slip a little more. But people were finding the ones that were 100% carbon, and they may not have been by Knitter's Pride, but whoever was making 100% carbon, they were having issues with the tips or with things splitting or just there were issues. There's a reason that these guys moved to having metal tips. So
the carbons that I found from Prim, they look exactly like the white.
They have
polymer.
The same nubs, the hook tips on the end and everything.
They're size 6 if you want to try them out. I don't know.
Oh, the ones you have. So you have them at your house? Yeah. Okay, we'll take a look.
But they only 6 is the biggest size they come in. They don't come in any of the bigger sizes.
Well, and if I brought them in, I might bring them in for sock knitting anyway.
That's kind of.
they're not widely distributed in the U.S. Prim is a German company. And I had contacted the distributors because I get my Prims currently through a couple of different other not from Prim directly, but those distributors don't have the specials like the carbons. They have the ergonomics. They have a few like not every distributor has every product. Like the limited Addies that we have in stock, we get through Bryson Distributing. We don't get them directly from Skacel, who is the parent company of Addy, which means Bryson doesn't have all the products. So when people are like, oh, you carry Addies, do you have? Those might not be products that my distributor has chosen to get. So it just gets challenging. That's all. But I'm almost wigging myself out because when small circumference knitting, that's what I'm doing right here. It's when it's something smaller, I like to call it for something smaller than like a 16-inch needle for a hat, you know. For a long time, even though we had circulars, this is before the construction of 9-inch circulars, to do socks, to do things like that, you needed some way to go in a circle smaller than the smallest available circular needle. And the one that goes way back in time are double point needles. I mean, you can find, like, I want to say tapestries, you know, where people are doing things in the round, not just socks, on pins, on double point pins. And so having a needle on both ends means you can knit across. I can knit across this one, and when I come back to it, there's a needle tip on the other side, so I can knit across it again. If these were single point needles and I knit across this side, then when I come back around the circle, there's no way to continue. So someone dreamed this up, which is great. And as I'm talking to y'all, I'm supposed to be doing knit 2 purl 2, and I just started knitting across this thing. So double point needles came first, and then with the invention of circulars, again, this is not a super accurate historical lesson because I don't know when these things were invented. But with the introduction of circular needles, there became other ways people developed to go in a circle and not have to use all these different double point needles. And I remember when I first learned magic loop, which is instead of 3 or 4 double points, you have one long circular that goes in half the stitches, loops, and goes in the other half of the stitches, and you have another loop so you can knit across half and half, and still have it be tight and still have it work. When I learned magic loop, my first thought was, I'm never going to use double points again, because this is awesome. And look at me using double points now. So I have also taught magic loop to people who said this is too confusing or this doesn't work for me, I prefer double points. And then my brain had to wrap around 2 circulars. Shout out to Carol uses those all the time, and at first it made no sense to me, and once it did make sense to me, I'm like, I'm never going back to magic loop. And I still use all 3. And some of that is because being a yarn shop owner, I want to stay well versed and able to instruct in all of them. But I don't know, I can't pinpoint why I'm actually liking double points right now. But I'm doing an awful lot on double points.
Well, so, and when you discuss small circumference knitting, mm-hmm. They all have their individual issues.
Yeah. And none is perfect. Each one is fiddly in some way. Sometimes
it's whatever. Pick the issue you're most comfortable with.
I often I use the language of pick the one that's least awkward for you. Yeah. Right? Because they're all going to be awkward in some way.
I tell people, because people all the time are like, do you use double points, or which double points do you like for socks? And I'm like, I don't make socks on double points, because socks need to come in 2s, and double points only get you 1. And if I did 1, I would never go back to the other.
Mm-hmm. Like I'm making single socks, and I'm getting through sometimes the other one.
I don't do sleeves on double points because you need 2 of them.
Well, and even with the other methods of small circumference knitting, you can do them 1 at a time. But there is something fun about doing them 2 at a time.
I tend to, if it needs to be in 2s, I like to do it in 2s so that they're both either not finished together or they're both done and they're the same length, and
the
life
size
is
comes
fine.
out exactly the same. Yeah.
I do like double points. Like, I was doing a sweater on double points.
You were doing all your gnome hats.
All of my gnome hats that start here and go all the way to the ground, they were all done on prims. Like, I love knitting with double points. A, because it wigs people out. And B, because it's just like, you can just go and it's
you
not.
Get used to them.
Yeah, you get used to them. It's not a problem for me. But it depends on what bothers you the least or what you're most comfortable with. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's, do I need just one or two? Like,
and by that you mean like
one of a thing,
a finished product, not like 2 double point needles.
No,
you need 4 or 5.
Yeah,
but yeah, if there's one thing in the end, or like gnome hats, one hat, you don't have to have a matching hat.
Yeah,
but socks, you need to have a matching pair.
Yeah,
so
I have done my gauntlets on double points, but I do those 2 at a time, like one on a set of double points. You also,
you also have had gauntlets that have come out different sizes.
Yes, I have. Because I wasn't paying attention.
It happens. We need to open up the shop soon. So we'll probably call it quits for now. Final reminder, and here, I got a little bit more done. Final reminder, here, let me show you a picture of the sock in here that I'm making. We still have a few copies of this book in the shop. This one's called Copeland. I'm doing super basic, no pattern to it in terms of like lacework or cables or whatever on the sock, because this is so busy. It'd be like wasted effort. So this Sunday is our virtual sit and stitch. It's for both May and June. It's in June. We didn't have one in May. The dual platform monthly virtual sit and stitch on the weekend. It's on Sunday, June 4th. It's from 1 to 5 p.m. Eastern U.S. time. And you can go to the Facebook page and see the live feed that you'll see me and hear Zoom, or you can go on Zoom. You can get into Zoom with the shop phone number
828-877-3550.
and that doesn't mean like call that from your phone. That means go to the Zoom app, or like I post links on like so many social media posts, so there's something clickable in our newsletter and on the social media posts. It's a long like website address if you're trying to get to it through the web, but it's like zoom.us. There's stuff. I usually try to I'll see if I can put the link in this video too. But once you're in Zoom, if you already have that on your phone or your tablet or your computer, when it asks for a meeting code, you put in the shop phone number for the meeting code. It's an easy way to remember it, and it's something you can look up either on like Google Maps for us, or if you have one of our cards, or it's our shop phone number. Just keeps things simple. So I think that's it for right now. We will see you all next week. We'll be filming next week, and then we'll be off for a week, and then we'll be back again because I will be visiting with my family, and Liz will be catching up on her sleep. So we will probably have a sale while we're gone, but we haven't figured out the details of that yet. So look for information on that next week. And more immediately, tomorrow night, I keep thinking today's Friday. Like, this has happened for the past 2 weeks. It's not Friday. It's Thursday right now when we're filming, but tomorrow is Friday. And Friday is when we have our second virtual sit and stitch of the week in the evening from 7 to 9 p.m. U.S. time, Eastern time. Try not to say daylight or standard, because whatever it is the current time on the East Coast, 7 to 9 p.m. Again, this one's only on Zoom, and you get in with the shop phone number.
828-877-3550. And it will be our last Friday night one.
Yes. For like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, because next Friday, the 9th, will be the night before I drive to the Outer Banks. So we will not be having sit and stitch a week from tomorrow. So I can pack and get ready. And then the Friday after that, I will be gone. And so if you only come on Fridays, then it's going to be like 3 Fridays between, sit and stitches. But I know we will all survive. We will miss each other horribly, but we will all survive. So, okay. We got to go open up the shop. We will talk to you next week if you're watching us on Facebook. Not Facebook. YouTube. We'll see you next week. And we'll see some people at the shop. We'll see some people online. Yay! Have a good weekend. Bye.